tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Hello everyone, welcome to another Wednesday evening with Clear Mountain Monastery community. This evening we'll be jumping into the third chapter of the book Buddhadhamma, which we've got right here. So this is the full, let's see how many pages we've got here. 1,585 page book by P.A. Payutto, which is basically a collection and systematized elaboration of the key points and key doctrinal terms in the Pali Canon that occur in the Theravada texts. And we've been going over this for the last several months, and this month we're on chapter 3, which is going over the three characteristics, and those three characteristics are anicca, dukkha, and anatta, or impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self. And this evening, as is our usual pattern, we'll have about actually maybe 25 to 30 minutes of, tonight actually we'll be doing a guided meditation, or a number of guided meditations for 25 to 30 minutes, and then we will jump into Q&A. So people can put questions in the chat at any time you're so inclined, and in the meantime we will just sit together, and you can either be sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor on a cushion. And this evening we're going to look at 5 or 6 different ways to contemplate anicca, contemplate and not just intellectually think about anicca, aniccata, impermanence, the changeability of things, but actually we'll be looking at them internally, the interoceptive, the proprioceptive, the tactile feeling, and actually the sensation of impermanence in other senses as well. So for the first anicca exercise, ask people to close your eyes. And first bring your attention to actually the feeling of the eye, the eyeballs themselves in the eye socket, and all the musculature and skin which surround the eyes. And just notice how this is changing. You might be able to feel some sense of twitching, perhaps in the eyelids, some sensation of movement around the eye sockets. And whatever you experience, that's what is our object of meditation with this exercise. And we note that this sensation is changing from one moment to the next. There's a seeming constant flux. Even the eyeballs themselves, oftentimes, even with our eyes closed, seem to move around, and you can feel that. You can feel the anatomy. You can feel the anatomy moving. This is the first of the 5 khandhas, the 5 aggregates, which is just form, the eyeball. All the anatomy which you would read about in any biology textbook. It's constantly changing. And shifting attention from the eyeball itself, the anatomical eye itself, to the forms. With your eyes closed, you don't just see a completely black screen, but there's this dance of color. And it too, our visual field, is also impermanent. So while the sphere that we're looking at, whether it's the internal sense door of the eye or the external sense door of sight, our focus is impermanence. A good object of meditation, the sole thing that's constant is inconstancy. Watching this dance of color and movement of light. Just realizing that this, like everything else, inside of our bodies and outside of our bodies, is constantly changing. And shifting attention once more to a different sphere, to the anatomical ears, both sides of your head. Just feeling whatever sensations arise. And see impermanence, anicca. You can either scan the ears from top to bottom, or just feel the whole ears, both sides at one time, all at once. It feels like static on an old TV. It can feel like waves or prickly feelings. But all of these feelings are manifestations of impermanence. And now shifting attention from the ears themselves, to the sound. Whatever sounds you're hearing right now. And if you're in a quiet room, this can include this inner sound, this inner listening, the sound of silence, the nada sound. This vibratory whistle. And the frame of our attention is moving, but we're noticing the same thing, which is impermanence. The impermanence of sound in this case. Or if you're not in a silent room, whatever other sounds there are, traffic, or if you're outside, the wind or the birds, it's all changing. we'll keep this focus of anicca, but actually bring our attention to the felt sense of blood going through the body. So you can do this by feeling your pulse, just right here on the side of the wrist. You can actually feel your heart beating, your heart pumping blood throughout your whole body. Just a utterly tangible manifestation of anicca. Continuing to feel the pulse and just consider the implications of that. And our blood is just constantly pumping. There's covered up by skin, but underneath, not even a few millimeters in spots. Just this constant rush, this constant roar of the bodily liquids, the blood. You can do this pulse exercise basically anytime, whether you're sitting meditation or if you're in public or private. It's easy. If you're at a dinner, you can just feel your pulse underneath the table. No one else has to know. And just, remembering this body is so mortal. It's just so the same as all the rest of the world outside of us, just constantly changing. And then we can shift again and see about the anicca exercise of just the feeling of impermanence on the palms of the hand. So you can feel this quite readily if you just sit with your hands on your knees, palms up. There's this constant vibration. It's almost as if you can feel the heat rising out of them. This is one classical definition of impermanence, is just that which arises and that which passes away. And we can feel that. Even without your other hand touching and feeling your pulse. If the mind's quiet, there's not much else going on in the room, you can actually feel your pulse in your fingers. And with the eyes closed, it's almost as if our inner perception of the hands, our inner perception of feeling, is more in line. It's almost as if we can feel the atomic level of the body. It's almost as if we can feel the constant flux and flow of the atoms. It's just this charged feeling in the palms of the hands. And this is just impermanence. The impermanence of feeling, Vedana, the impermanence of rupa, or form, the body. And an interesting side meditation while we still have our attention on our hands is, as you're feeling the impermanence at this skin level, this surface of the palms, see if you can feel where the skin stops, where your body stops, and where the air around your hands begins. Where you stop and where everything else begins. Can you feel this? Is it a clear line? We look at our hands, you look at a picture and everything seems so clear. That's the body, that's the outside of a body. But with eyes closed, things feel much more porous. It's more porous than porous. Things feel like even more fine than mist. And so this is a manifestation of the impermanence of perception. Just a moment ago we had a perception that skin is solid, I am solid. Whereas when you look for the boundary, what is inside, what is outside, what is internal, what is external, when you let the mind rest right at that connection, right where internal meets external, this clear line of me and everything else, this clear line of skin and air just dissolves. You can't find it. It just is all subsumed in this mist of anicca, this tingling of impermanence. And now, continuing this theme of impermanence, but see if you can feel all at once the whole body, from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet. And notice every feeling all at once. One big object of meditation. And just feel all the ways that this body is impermanent. From the subtle vibrations and tinglings and murmurings of skin in contact with air, mingling with air, to the belly, moving in and out with each breath. If you're sitting in a meditation posture, just the constant, or at least periodic shifts of posture to keep upright. Just knowing all of this as anicca, as impermanent. Whole body impermanent. And to shift into the final anicca exercise that we'll be exploring here tonight. Just as you could feel the uncertain crisscross impermanence of the skin on the hands, this feeling of vibration, which, where does it start? Where does it begin? You can't really feel, can't really put your finger on the mind's finger, the mind's eye. You can't see where this body, these hands, just as you can't see where the skin of the hand begins and ends. So do the same thing with your whole body. So where on the skin level, look at a photo, and it seems like we're just a an outline. It's so easy to see where the person begins and the scenery, where the person ends and the scenery begins. This type of, seems like a black and white truth when we see photos of ourselves or look at our hands or our body, but the felt feeling inside our bodies, interoception, it's impermanent. This body, it feels like a ghost. There's just no clear demarcation of internal and external, just a haze of bodily tingly sensations. And this is anicca, this is impermanent. This is impermanence. And this is just the transition. So now that you are experiencing that this seeming shell is not at all a shell, at least the way that we experience it through consciousness, certainly with the eyes closed, but even with the eyes open, the shell of our skin is much more porous in our mind's eye than we previously may have thought. And now get bigger. Let the mind go even bigger than the body. Not making any kind of claims about the brain popping out of the body or any kind of extrasensory perception, but just with the eyes closed, and when you practice even with the eyes open, consciousness, there's no clear demarcation of where the impermanence of the body and the impermanence of our environment begin. When you open up the mind in this way, in this abundant, exalted, immeasurable way, letting consciousness expand, front, back, sides, above and below, knowing internal, knowing external. You can actually experience this whole field as impermanence, the whole field of awareness, the whole field of perception. It's as if you can feel the whole room alive with vibration. And this body is just one pattern of vibration and tingling sensation within this larger moving flux and flow. And opening your eyes, but seeing if you can maintain some of this appreciation of anicca, even the impermanence of the skin, impermanence of our heartbeat, impermanence of the blood coursing through our skin, impermanence of sights, sounds, the whole body and our whole environment as anicca. And people can continue with any of these experiments and shift into a period of questions. If anyone has questions, feel free to post them. It's good to see people on YouTube. Lots of 3 hands in Anjali. That's great. Yeah, and why is this important? Why does the Buddha give so much importance to anicca? Is because it's the most easily graspable for most people most of the time. We have dukkha. Most people seemingly periodically, the gross pains of the body seem to come and go. They don't seem to be completely overwhelming the body at all times. And the truth of not self can be quite illusory for many people, and especially on a intellectual level. But the impermanence, it's totally obvious, both as we're experiencing now with the very real, constantly manifesting change of the body as we experience it internally, but just on the level of science, anything from the smallest atoms, the smallest quarks and gluons, and everything on the physical level, physics-wise, is impermanence, and going all the way up to astronomy, everything in the heavens, everything in the sky is impermanent. So we can grasp onto that, and when we realize impermanence, then that lets us let go. Like, why are we holding on? Why are we clinging when everything is such in a flux as we feel it is now? And that's where we see the fruit of the Buddha's teaching, the fruit of freedom from suffering, is when we can let go. And this impermanence, anicca, is one tool for recognizing and allowing this letting go. So our first question: recognizing impermanence in perception and awareness, what is it that lends the sense of continuity to experience? This is a good question, and the commentaries to the Buddha's teachings, the Buddhaghosa's commentaries, give an interesting answer for each of the three characteristics. So what Buddhaghosa suggests is that which obfuscates, or that which covers up, or that which lends the sense of continuity and obscures our seeing impermanence, is the perception of continuity itself. So it's an illusion which we've created based on our collective perception of our visual perception, which everything seems to have at least some measure of permanence, and we glom these different all these different snapshots of permanence, which we've created through all of our senses. Whether it's the camera that I'm looking at, the Buddha Rupa, the chair you're sitting on, the cushion you're sitting on, the table, we have these visual snapshots of permanence, and these become data points which the mind just in the background has conglomerated this whole picture of the world as being permanent. And that seeming permanence, the fact that we can't see our blood just rushing constantly through the body, lets us believe that the body does have a level of permanence. It's an illusion. What lends the sense of continuity is just our own delusion, and that's really what we're trying to pierce through with this exercise. So let's see. We've got a number of questions. Okay, sorry, circling through questions, the impermanence of the chat or the captions. The pulse technique is a gem. It really is, and it's something that you can do anytime. You can just feel that throbbing, that constant rush of anicca, and you can even use the mantra anicca with each heartbeat, with each pulse. Anicca, 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 and It's not just the pulse technique, but really any of these can be used in daily life. So finding more and more ways to get in touch with and experiment with this anicca sanya is great, because we're not just sitting with our eyes closed, most of us, all the time, and really none of us, even the best meditators, the most diligent meditation monks, are not sitting meditation all the time. So to be able to feel and see and hear impermanence all throughout our day, I mean, that is vipassana. So vipassana is clear seeing. It's not just any particular technique of seeing impermanence. It's seeing impermanence in all of the senses, the impermanence of the sight, sound, smells, taste, touch that we interact with, and the mind's constant rush of ideas and thoughts and emotions. Hi, Ajahn. Hey, Miles, good to see you on the screen. People translate anicca as impermanent, but this doesn't resonate with me, as it doesn't really capture the flowing nature of reality. Do you have thoughts on this? Am I misunderstanding? Yeah, I think with any translation, I think it's good to experiment with what is most impactful for you, what is most meaningful for you. So I think most translators, this is probably the case, do translate anicca as impermanent and aniccata as impermanence, the state of being impermanence. But yeah, if there's a better word which works for you, flowing or flux, or all these different images, they're not even metaphors, they're just manifestations of anicca, the mist which I mentioned, or the simmering nature of these sensations, the itchiness, or the flux. I think I've seen flux as the translations of anicca, or aniccata, fluxing. So experiment, and if one word works for you, then use that word. But also for long-term, people who are on this Theravada or this Pali path, if that's your inclination, then just creating more and more positive connotations with the Pali words, because anicca really is more broad than any English term could encapsulate. It's just almost an accident of our upbringing that sometimes we feel more resonance with English words, because just time-wise, we've spent more time with the English words and have more connotations and nuances and connections with the English words. But over time, you start to build this up with Pali terms as well. If you can start thinking in Pali, especially with these hard to translate or untranslatable terms, that's also a good thing to do. So here's a suggestion, actually. So Ajahn Jeff translates anicca as inconstancy. That's also a good translation. And both impermanence and inconstancy in their English rendering do the exact same thing that the Pali is doing. So anicca is the combination of actually a preface and a root. So the root is just nich, or the noun form of that, the stem form nicca or niccang, which means permanent. And you add this prefix a, it's just a negator. So anicca, not permanent. And similarly, I'm not sure if it's Greek or Latin, but the English prefix im does the same thing. So im, not permanent, impermanent, or in, the prefix in does the same thing, inconstant, not constant. So with knowing impermanence of all can we still enjoy the impermanence? Yeah, I mean, if it's, the perception of impermanence actually, so people might be familiar, I've talked about this before, but there's a framework or a stock phrase or a pattern which you see again and again in the Pali Canon, which is doing X, or X leads to gladness, Pāmojja. Gladness leads to joy, or piti. Piti, joy, leads to bodily tranquility, which leads to happiness, sukha, which then leads to concentration, which leads to seeing things as they are, which leads to dispassion, cessation, and realization. So there are various different things which the Buddha suggests can lead to that gladness, leading to joy, leading to bodily tranquility, leading to sukha or happiness. And one of those things, you see, generosity is listed as leading to gladness. Having faith can lead to gladness, but also the perception of impermanence, it's said in various suttas, can lead to gladness. So, I don't think that's totally what the question's about, but knowing impermanence as impermanence is actually, can both lead to Pāmojja, or gladness and joy, and actually knowing the impermanence of sight, sound, smells, taste, touch is actually defined as, I believe it's nekamma somanassa, or the renunciant happiness, or renunciant delight. I believe it's in the Bahuvedaniya Sutta, perhaps, the Majjhima number 140? No, not totally sure about that. The Buddha says there's what's called householder pleasures, which are when someone regards as a gain the sight, sound, smells, taste, touch that they receive. So that's householder pleasure or householder joy. But there's a renunciant joy, which is actually perceiving the impermanence of those exact same sight, sound, smells, taste, touch. So actually, in this sense, if you are realizing the impermanence of either a delicious or a disgusting taste, that can actually be a cause for joy. And you can experience that actually in your meditation and your daily life. So see if you can shift your attention from the absolutely delicious taste to the deliciousness of the perception of impermanence, or actually not just the perception, but the direct knowing of impermanence. So, comment that flow lends an interesting Taoist tinge to the concept of impermanence or anicca. So here's another question. So how can I delight that my cat is impermanent? This is a good question. That's, in this case, whether it's a cat or a loved one, family member, friends, we don't delight that all of the good causes and conditions which have come together to manifest in this loved one of ours are impermanent. We don't delight in that. This is a good question. I mean, there are two qualities which P.A. Payutto, the author of Buddhadhamma, suggests are mature responses to this realization of impermanence. Two mature responses, and they are composure and contentment. So when we see the wonderful and beautiful and the lovely and great things in our life changing, we don't like nurture the delusion that it should be otherwise, or that it ever was otherwise than being impermanent and unchanging. But we can get solace from this composure that, yeah, it was always like this. And that's just the way it is, and it's not personal. And yeah, knowing and appreciating that that impermanence with composure, that it's always been like this and it will always be like this, can help us not necessarily delight that our loved ones are passing away, but yeah, can at least appreciate the truth of it all, that this is impermanent, and that's the way the world is, internal, external, and composure and commitment. So yeah, if when we're seeing our kitten or our child go through their toddler phase, we, even though we realize, we're seeing the impermanence of this, this toddler will get older and will become bigger, will become a small child and then a teenager, and then, if they keep going, they get older and then adult and then an old person, and then this is all changing, but we still commit ourselves to a relationship. The external world is impermanent and changing, but we can commit ourselves to positive mental qualities of loving kindness and see if you can bring some stability and constancy to this loving kindness, to your wholesome mental qualities, the compassion that you can feel for the world. So that's a test. How constant can your metta be? So a response. So Marcus Aurelius had an exercise for parents I like. When your child goes to bed at night, remind yourself that they may pass away in the night. Yeah, for parents who are, see the benefit in that, the stoic truth of it, or the truth of it. That could steel you to experience the inevitable change. On the lighter end of things, I remember one of the supporters, or this couple that used to come to Abhayagiri, I think they still come to Abhayagiri, when they first had their child, they had this kind of onesie, this one-piece baby outfit. I think they must have had it especially made. They couldn't have found this in the store on Amazon or anything. But basically it had the words birth, aging, sickness, death, with little check boxes next to them. And then the one for birth was checked off. And then, of course, it's a little baby in a onesie, so it doesn't have the aging, sickness, and death checked off yet. But might be a little bit of dark humor for some, but it's also kind of funny on another level. So, well, it's getting close to the end of our time together. So yeah, this has been a very meditative and experiential Wednesday evening with you all, noticing impermanence. And we will shift over, as things do shift, over into YouTube. Over into our Zoom conversation. So after this, on Wednesday evenings, we have about 45 minutes of more interactive conversation on Zoom, and you can find that link on the Clear Mountain website. And just in the calendar link, and just click that link and connect up with us on Zoom, where things are more personal and interactive. So hope everyone has a good week, and we'll be back again next Wednesday at the same time. And Tanisabo will be live as usual at St. Mark's in Seattle. And until we see each other again, May it be so, and hope everyone has a good night.